Ladies, we're now at that time of our program that we all look forward to so much. I really appreciate the work that Melissa does in finding the best speakers and programs and presentations to come to Tapestry every month. She makes it seem so easy, but the caliber of speakers we get every time just blows my mind, and tonight is no exception. When Melissa sent me the information on Phaedra, I just quickly had to go into her website, and I just couldn't get off the website. I kept finding things I wanted to read and more things, and then there's a list of what she talks about, and she's written books, and she does iPods, and all I could think of was, she'd better be older than me because I want to be that when I grow up. Amazon best-selling author. See, wouldn't we all like to be a best-selling author through Amazon?
You can really.
Podcaster and lover of Starbucks, Phaedra is determined that no one facing a crisis feels alone. Known in pop culture as America's crisis coach, Phaedra works with high achievers who have faced unimaginable obstacles and want to come out on top. Her bold approach to crisis management is out of the box and is changing lives. With 22 years of experience in the fields of psychology, mental health, and court investigating, Phaedra has worked with thousands of people facing challenges. Her biggest challenge came when her husband was indicted for a white-collar crime and sent to prison for 43 years. The fallout from this crisis left Phaedra in dire straits and brought her to the end of her coping skills. Phaedra dug deep and came out of her situation stronger, more effective than ever, and with a burning desire to help others featuring unimaginable crises. You can find out more about Phaedra at Doing Life with Phaedra, and I'm going to spell her name, Faydra. So you can look at doinglifewithphaedra.com, and you can find her books at phaedraonamazon.com. Catch her podcast, Coming Out of the Fire, on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Ladies, please help me welcome our speaker tonight, Phaedra.
Welcome. I appreciate you very much. You guys take such great care of me. So I have a rather loud voice. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm so thrilled to be here. I just always feel so at home at Tapestry events. It was actually one of the first times I actually told my testimony was at a Tapestry event in Roseville. And I just knew that the Spirit was with me because it came out effortlessly, and I didn't feel that sense of shame that I had walked around with for a long time after I had weathered that storm with my husband. So any Tapestry, anywhere, anytime, yes, I will come and speak. So today what I'm going to be doing is doing a little bit of teaching. Are you guys open to that? Awesome. So as I said in my original opening, I work with people who are going through the worst times of their lives. And after doing that for 23 years, I've learned a thing or two. I've seen patterns, and I've developed my own ways to help people get through the worst times of their lives. And so today we're going to talk about one of those things. I'm going to teach that to you, and it's called a pattern interrupt. And I love having a PowerPoint. It's so much more effective. I don't speak right off the slide, so don't worry, you're not going to fall asleep. But it's so much more effective. And if at the end of this is something you'd like to have, I'll be glad to get your email and get it directly to you. So don't feel like you have to take notes or anything like that, okay? And then I'm also going to make sure that I leave a little bit of room for questions, because I really do like an interactive situation. So, that's me. I love any form of animal print, as you can see. And you guys have heard enough about me at this point. I am a podcaster. It is a passion of mine. How many of you know what podcasting is? Okay, I have cards over on my table. Let's make sure you guys get some of those. I have a show. Think of it as radio, but it's free, okay? Do any of you guys use Apple products? Okay, on your iPhones, you actually have an app and it's native, which means it's automatically there without you downloading it, and it's for podcasting, and I'll show you what that looks like. I know it's far away, but it's a little purple, it says podcast, and it's purple. Now, if you don't have iPhone, it's okay. You can still do that through Stitcher Radio if you have Android, and I'll show you at the end, too, how to access it, accpodcast.com. You can listen to it right off my website. So podcasting is prolific. It's so amazing that actually cars starting in 2017 are going to have podcasting buttons native in their navigation. So you can just listen to podcasts in your car because it is the fastest growing medium. It's just phenomenal. So as a podcaster, I can host my own show. It costs me very little money, and I'm able to share. And I bring people on my show who have been through literally the worst times of their lives, and they've come out the other side. I've had people on my show who've had family members murdered. I've had someone on my show who's survived a plane crash. I have had people on the show who have survived suicide attempts, just phenomenal people. And you know what's the most interesting thing about it is I never expected in a million years, but it actually became a ministry. People come on, and one of the first things they say to me off air is it okay if I talk about God? And I'm like, please, yes. And they're told I'm on a lot of shows, interviews, and they don't want me to go there. So this is where you get to go there with me. So among those other things, I am a coach, I am a speaker, I am a trainer, and I am a lover of Starbucks and my rescue dogs. I'm an empty nester. My husband's not at home, so I've got a lot of time and love and energy. So what is a pattern? So we're going to talk today about patterns and how we get into positive patterns and negative patterns, and how these negative patterns actually keep you from the things that you want in life. And as I explained in my brief introduction, that I love to work with people who are trying to show up powerfully in their businesses, and yet something's not happening. A lot of times those people work with coaches. They hire business coaches, marketing coaches, book writing coaches, all these coaches. They spend a crazy amount of money, and at the end, they still don't have what they set out to get. And here's what I know. Oftentimes, it's because they are hiding something. I know for me, when I went through the situation with my husband, I was hiding that. I didn't want people to know. When I met you and you said, oh my gosh, are you married? Ugh, I didn't know what to do. I had to learn how to do that. And because I was hiding that part of my private life, I wasn't showing up powerfully in my professional life. If you and I made a connection and I thought, oh my gosh, we would just do great together, we have these strong personalities, you and I on a stage would be phenomenal, and then I knew that maybe it would offend you or hurt your feelings, that I didn't just come right out and say, I'm a prison wife. And I would worry that that would catch up to me, and you would say to me, Phaedra, you have a character flaw. You owed me that information. I didn't know at what point in getting to a relationship I owed somebody that information. So because I was hiding my private life and keeping it away from my professional life, I was struggling. I wasn't making the money. I wasn't having the impact, and nothing was going right. I had developed these patterns, this thought process that was going on in my mind, and then it would take me down a rabbit hole, and then I would think, oh, you're automatically going to reject me, so I'm going to reject you before you can reject me. I'm not going to engage with you, right? And I would look for the water seeking its own level, which is looking for lower level types of people who weren't going to be able to help me be where I wanted to be in life. So let's talk about patterns. Can everybody see? Because I know I move around. I'm Greek. So let's just understand that I'm Greek and I'm going to be demonstrative. So what is a pattern? A pattern is an outward expression that's created by a consistent thought or feeling. Dread, anger, resentment. When we have these consistent thoughts and feelings, then we start to have outward expressions of them. And we're going to talk about what some of those look like. And I'm sure right in your mind, you may be thinking of what some of those could look like. Now, a pattern is created when our thoughts about an issue cause reactions in our tummy, in our head, stiff necks, visceral reaction. When those thoughts cause these reactions that trigger behaviors. Now, patterns can be positive or negative. An example of positive patterns are exercise, self-care, Bible study, journaling, housekeeping, and having a healthy social life. Those come from right-mindedness, thoughts and feelings that create outward expressions of them. Okay, so let's be really honest. There's lots of patterns in the world, and there's positive and negative. Examples of negative patterns: anxiety, worry, and dread, angry outbursts, isolation. I was super guilty of that. Too much or too little sleep, overindulgence, hyperactivity, sex, alcohol, drugs, shopping, too many extremes. So, can negative patterns be stopped? Yes. Old patterns can be stopped and the behaviors can be modified to achieve your desired results through pattern interrupts. Now, this is something that I developed with going way back to working with people as a social worker. I worked with families, obviously, who were unable or unwilling to parent based on their personal decisions. And I'm a huge fan of Teen Challenge because I had a lot of clients who went through Teen Challenge. It's a very, very valuable program. So pattern interrupts is a protocol that I teach even my most senior VIP clients. It doesn't matter if you are low functioning or making millions of dollars. We all deal with the same thing. One of the things I say in my podcast is my story is very unique. And the reason that I suffered is I didn't know anybody who had ever been through anything like that I knew. I had served hundreds of families where prison was part of their life, but I didn't know anyone like Phaedra with a master's degree and kids on the football team and, high achieving daughters. And I was slated to be one of the supervisors in our county, and all of a sudden I fell from grace as collateral damage to something I really didn't even have anything to do with. And I didn't know anybody who'd been through like that. I knew about Bernie Madoff's wife, I knew about these other 1-degree people, but I didn't have access to them. And because of that, I felt very alone. And even though I had tons of skill sets about how to cope with life, how to overcome, how to change my mind, how to do all those things, it was like I had this big metal toolbox next to me, and I was rattling my hand around it, and my knuckles were just hitting metal. I had no tools. And because I didn't know anybody who'd been through it, I felt alone. And most of the people looked at me with sympathy and pity. My friends were like, girl, I don't know how you're going to get through this. I don't even know if I can really be your friend in public. It was painful. And because of that, I literally put suicide on the table as one of my options. And the key to that was it felt like it was a choice. At least I had a choice. I had power that I could choose that. And I don't know if you've never been there, and I had never been there. There's a comfort in it to know that it's there, should I choose, right? But hoping that that wasn't going to have to be, right? Because life sucks, but I tried to make it suck less. Okay, so now I use those pattern interrupts that I teach people, taught people, teach people now to get myself through this. Okay, so we're going to talk about these. Pattern interrupts stop the spiral. They break the chain of thought in the moment. And they require a polar action from your current one. They bring nearly immediate relief, which is awesome, and they can be done anywhere, anytime. And they require very little effort. And when you're really stressed out, effort is like the last thing you want to put in, right? You have expelled so much effort. Last thing you want to do is more effort. But they don't require much effort. So how do we create a pattern interrupt? The key is to identify that you're actually in a pattern. So that's going to take some self-reflection. And I'm sure if you were to think about your day or your week or your month or your cycle of life, you'll see that you fall into a rhythm. Maybe it has to do with hormones. Maybe it has to do with who's in your life at a certain time. Maybe it has to do when bills are due. Maybe it has to do when deadlines come up in your work. Maybe you have audits. Whatever, they create these patterns that erupt these emotions, the negative ones, right? That make you not want to work out, that make you want to go do self-harm versus self-care, right? So the key is to identify you're in a pattern. It's like, ooh, wait a minute. Now, we're all ladies here. We're all lovers of God, and I'm going to be very, very frank because this is life and death to me. I have a mentally ill daughter, chronically mentally ill. She suffers terribly with depression. She also has what's called PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a hormone disorder. I have it too. It's why I'm a bigger, even though I don't eat a lot. Go figure. So she was very, very reluctant to be on birth control because of our beliefs, right? Finally, after months, probably years of convincing her, the doctor was able to get her onto the medication. What she noticed was that so many of the spirals that she was having were related to those hormone fluctuations. And by getting on this medication, I hate that we call it birth control, it should have other names too, because it has other benefits. Her hormones regulated, her thoughts started to regulate, and she was able then to identify, I'm in a pattern. And for the first time in her life, because she was on pills that she could predict when she was going to have her period. And she was able to say, I just have PMS. I'm not crazy. So for her to be able to identify, this is not crazy, this is a situation that's temporary. We are shouting to the Lord right now at our house. I'm just saying. Okay, you identify that you're in a pattern. Now, you want to assess what you're doing in this moment. Are you biting your nails? Are you picking? People pull their hair, people pick at their cuticles, they chew, they overeat, they do whatever it is that they do. You want to be able to identify what are you doing in this moment. Okay? Now, you want to choose an alternate activity. Now, here's the key. Our brains work in different ways. You've heard about the right brain, the left brain, that sort of thing, right? So if you are, oftentimes for me, I will have my spirals in my office. And what I know is that I used to be that super mom, super busy. I had very high achieving kids, always on the go, multiple streams of income. And now I'm reduced to, I'm this empty nester, my husband's gone, my life is radically different. And I'm alone a lot. I don't have a lot of friends here yet. It's just a moment in time. But I notice that if I'm too alone for too long, it starts. The enemy starts to get strong. And so I have to realize that I need to do a polar opposite activity, okay? So what that means is I've got to get out. If I'm sitting in my office isolated, I got to get out and go walk the dogs. Or for me, the answer is I get in my car and I go to Starbucks and I get my drink. It has to be something, so if I'm sitting at the computer thinking, I need to go out and do something physical. If you're out doing something physical and it starts, you need to go do something zen, right? It has to be the polar opposite because it triggers the other side of your brain. If you're a thinker, go do art. If you're an artist, they're paying big money right now at Disney and Pixar to go in and teach those artists how to chill. And they need to learn to work the other side of their brain. Okay. And I'm watching the clock running really low. And then you have to engage in that activity immediately. Don't think about it. It isn't an option because the spiral will continue if you don't literally get out and go do the activity. Okay, so why the pattern interrupt works. It's disrupting the thoughts and the behaviors associated, breaks the association of the two in your mind. So by going and doing the other thing, it breaks the association you have in your mind of I'm depressed and I'm chewing my nails. You've got to go out and break that habit. And it frees you up to analyze what is really going on. Because as we know, we have the Holy Spirit, right? So if we're out doing our thing, it frees us up to know what's really going on and gives us the opportunity for God to speak to us. And it's a conscious action versus the subconscious thought-feeling connection you were in. When you were in the spiral, it was subconscious. You weren't thinking doom and gloom. The enemy started giving you the doom and gloom. So the keys to creating an awesome pattern interrupt. Give the conscious thought to the negative patterns you currently fall into. So start to think about it. I'm in a pattern. I'm chewing my nails right now. Oh, what am I doing? What am I thinking? Oh, I'm conscious. I'm moving it from the back of my mind to the front of my mind. Okay? Now, when you do that, it's super important. This one is probably the most important thing of what I'm talking about. Make a list of the alternative activities and make sure they excite you. And the key to that is do it like tonight when you go home. Oh, when I get into a pattern interrupt, what is it that I'm going to go do? And decide to do it now, not when you're depressed, because when you're depressed or when it happens, the anxiety or whatever, you're not going to want to think to go do something fun. You're going to come into agreement with yourself now, that when I feel this way, I'm going to get in my car, I'm going to put on praise and worship music, and I'm going to drive to the farthest Starbucks away from me and go through the drive-thru, and I am going to refresh myself. That's what I agreed to do when I wasn't in a bad place. And then when I was in the bad place, I'm like, oh, I have a high value for ethics and doing what I say I'm going to do, so I'm going to get my butt in the car and I'm going to go do that. Okay? So be honest about your level of self-awareness. If you are not self-aware, you need to get into community with someone who can help you be that way. And consider having a coach or an accountability partner. This is probably 90% of what I do with clients when they first start working with me. We just focus on this, and then me supporting them through it. Pattern interrupts are an effective way to break old habits. You pick one pattern that's holding you back from what you know you want to be. And be bold. Choose the biggest one. You don't need to start with the small one. Choose with the biggest one. If you conquer that, the spiral effect, it's amazing. Create a plan and engage in it as soon as the pattern starts. That's that agreement that you have with yourself. Be willing to look at the psychology of the old pattern, and you can conquer it, which has a domino effect. As soon as you fix one, guess what? As soon as you fix a pattern in your finances, all of a sudden you are fixing a pattern in your health and physical. It's amazing how they all work together. The most important things to remember: the Holy Spirit is our biggest ally in the pattern interrupt game. And ask for his direction. What do you need to learn, hear, or pay attention to? Because here's the thing that I know for sure, and I know it for me, and I know it for thousands of people that I've worked with. When we are made aware of our fear, it's God's calling us to a higher knowing. He's trying to help us conquer that. He knows you're ready, and that's why you're experiencing it. What rises up in us is oftentimes the thing that God is trying to help us conquer, and he only brings to mind what he knows we are ready to face. The number one thing I see in my coaching practice is powerful business owners who are stressed, they're frustrated, and they're not achieving what they know they want, and they are confused because it feels like it's just not working. But they are managing issues in their lives that they think have nothing to do with their business, but they totally do. That private and that professional need to merge. So these are the ways that you can follow me: doinglifewithphaedra.com. That is my website. ACC podcast, you can listen to, oh my gosh, amazing stories of triumph, amazing stories. And then crisiscrusher.com is a freebie that I have. It's a series of videos, it's a series of audios of me, and it will help you. It teaches you the hero's journey. How many of you know what that is? The Bible is the hero's journey. Confrontation, rising up, accepting the challenge, and moving through it. It also talks to you about the cycle of grief and loss. And people think that's just about death and dying, and it's not. Anything that sets us back is a cycle of grief and loss. So it might not be that you're in crisis, but it will happen. And if it doesn't happen to you, it's most likely going to happen to someone you know and love. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I hope this made sense. I hope it impacted you. And I'm so grateful for being here today.
Tapestry mugs, and inside you'll find a necklace in there as well.
Yay!
Because we love bling.
Thank you.
Thank you